All right, so Reverend Al Sharpton went on MSNBC's Morning Joe to discuss what seems to be, according to him, the single greatest threat facing the American people right now, and that is some random guy stealing 10 steaks from a Trader Joe's in New York City. Okay, I'm not even kidding. This is MSNBC, the supposed left-wing corporate media outlet, and they are choosing to spend a bulk of time on their main morning show talking about some random petty theft incident that took place. Okay, this would not even be worth covering on a local news outlet, and this is what they are choosing to cover as if it is part of some grand conspiracy that is happening around the United States of some massive crime surge, and it's all due to a couple people saying defund the police last year. So let's just go ahead and watch this clip, and then I'll break down how absolutely pathetically wrong all of this actually is.
It is true that people are just walking in and walking out with it.
No, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you go to a local pharmacy, Dwayne Reed or Rite Aid, any of them, and you've got to get someone to help assist you. I mean, they have the little button there.
Yep.
You hit the buzzer, and the guy comes over and unlocks your toothpaste.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking about basic stuff.
And as well.
What did I miss that we now have to lock up toothpaste?
Yeah, and
I'm just curious, Rev, really quickly. I mean, Eric Adams has said he's going to do his best to fix this. I'm just curious. I mean, he's got a governor who's saying, well, I don't know that we want to give the judges any power to make decisions on whether they've seen the same bad guy in front of them 12 times in the past week. And then you've got a DA. I know you talked to the DA. The DA's going, oh, we don't want to punish anybody unless it's really bad. So, yeah, you can steal whatever you want to steal. And, yeah, we won't do any jail time. And then you've got, a woke city council. I'm just curious, is Eric Adams going to be able to do anything? Well, he's obviously surrounded by elected officials who want New York to remain chaotic.
Well, I think he's got a challenge there because there is a debate in the criminal justice system, and there are those that are concerned, including me, about overloading the system and the jails with petty crimes. But at the same time, you cannot have a culture where people are just at random, just robbing and stealing, and is out of control and is put on the front page of newspapers, which only encourages others to do it. In fairness to Eric, he's only been mayor 5 weeks. But but even as unfair to him, Eric, they're locking up my toothpaste.
Okay, so, I mean, listen, first of all, their biggest gripe with, society right now, apparently, is the fact that when they go to a grocery store or a pharmacy that somebody has to go unlock the toothpaste for them. I mean, I kind of think that that is emblematic of the entire problem with this whole segment that they put together here. If toothpaste, which is pretty much a basic life necessity, if that is having to be locked behind, some plastic board or whatever the employees need to go to open to give you access to it, if toothpaste is being restricted behind lock and key, maybe that says something about broader economics or the broader, societal problems that we have right now, where somebody would feel the need to steal toothpaste because, I don't know about you or me, but it seems like people aren't really going out and stealing toothpaste for the fun of it. It seems like that's kind of just a basic life necessity along with many other things that people should just kind of have access to for free, if you ask me. But again, I mean, I go to my local Kroger that's just right up the street from my house, and there are tons of different life necessities that are stuck behind lock and key. Things like baby formula, things like, hygiene products, etc. So the fact that those are behind lock and key is a problem in and of itself that I think says something deeper about our societal problems than what they're trying to get at here, which is pretty much what Joe Scarborough had to say about this entire situation, characterizing the problems that we are facing as a society, or that New York City specifically is facing right now, as if the problem stems from a lack of resources or a lack of funding to the NYPD. This is just completely detached from reality, okay? Mayor Eric Adams, first of all, is an absolute psychopath, okay? I've covered him multiple times on this channel. Even in just the 5 weeks that he has been the mayor of New York City, he's a former NYPD officer himself, but even just in the few weeks that he has been the mayor, he's already come out and said some pretty insane shit. I mean, he was pushing for basically solitary confinement to make a return, a bunch of different shit that shows that he is not going to be actually addressing the underlying economic, material material needs of people within New York City. And he's just going to be focusing on, a hyper-militarization or continued hyper-militarization of the NYPD and throwing more resources that could be going towards social programs, throwing those just at the NYPD as if police solve crime, okay? And that kind of gets me to my main point here, which is crime in and of itself is an outgrowth of people's material conditions, okay? Police do not solve crime, okay? They don't prevent crime, they don't solve crimes, they're pretty much useless on that front, okay? What police exist to do right now under our capitalist system, they serve capital, okay? They exist to protect corporate America, okay? They don't exist to protect your communities or to make society safer in the broader scale of things. If they did, then these US cities that they're talking about right here, whether it's LA or New York, they would already be the safest cities on the planet. Why? Because their budgets are larger than any other country on earth. Okay, so here's just a couple different statistical perspectives to give you an idea of exactly how, under-resourced or underfunded or hampered by these woke council members the NYPD and other police precincts actually are. So U.S. policing budgets would rank as the world's third highest military expenditure. And really, it's like the second highest because one of these countries happens to be the United States of America. So, the U.S. police force is only sitting behind China's military in terms of their funding. Okay, so how the fuck could you look at this situation and conclude that they don't have enough resources? I mean, we can get even more specific about the NYPD in particular. The NYPD's $6 billion budget would make it the 33rd largest military spender on the planet. So, in other words, the NYPD has a larger budget than a vast majority of countries' militaries. Okay, so doesn't really seem to me like they're facing, some sort of a funding shortage in this entire situation. But on our prison systems, okay, it's not just the over-bloated police budgets that we have right now. It's also our over-bloated prison systems, okay? More people are behind bars in the US than there are living in many major cities. So, I mean, you see here, if the US prison and jail population was a city in and of itself, it would be the 5th largest city in the country. Okay, just behind New York, LA, Chicago, Houston. Okay, I live in Atlanta, so the U.S. prison and jail population is damn near almost double, if not over double, the population of the city of Atlanta. Okay, so again, we don't have a shortage of police funding. We don't have a shortage of police in the NYPD. We don't have a shortage of people who are sitting behind bars right now, as Joe Scarborough is trying to frame this entire situation. It's completely detached from reality. Again, if police actually solved or prevented crime, or if throwing more people in jails actually reduced the crime rate, then the United States would already be by far and away the safest place on the entire planet. And we're not. Why? Because crime does not stem from how big your police budgets are. Crime stems from the economic realities of whatever society that you are talking about. When people don't have enough money to support themselves and their families in a sustainable way, they are more likely to have to resort to things like stealing. Okay, that's just the reality. You want to address crime in a long-term way, then invest in these cities. Okay, invest in the poor and working class Americans who are the ones who are disproportionately being thrown in jail in the first place. That's what you would actually do if you cared about solving crime. But these people don't care about solving crime. What they care about doing is criminalizing poverty. Okay, that's their goal at the end of the day. And so that's just to give you a perspective in terms of the current policing and jail situation and how absolutely insane it is to suggest that we have some sort of a shortage to our police budgets. But on top of that, I mean, again, they choose to spend their time talking about that with everything else that's going on in the world. I mean, here's just a couple different things maybe they could have talked about instead to put it more in perspective for the American people in terms of what an actual crime surge looks like. So here's just a couple statistics. The true cost of wage theft is even higher than $50 billion. And they say here from the Economic Policy Institute vice president that wage theft affects far more people than more well-known crimes such as bank robberies, convenience store robberies, street and highway robberies, and gas station robberies combined. So wage theft, meaning corporations overtly stealing from their employees, and that's not even to, talk about wage theft in a Marxian sense, but just purely like literally underpaying your employees from what you are contractually obligated to pay them. This is a much larger problem than even just petty crimes or petty thefts, that they are choosing to focus on in this commentary. So again, just completely ridiculous. How about you talk about corporate America looting the American people instead of some guy stealing from a fucking Trader Joe's? Just absolutely pathetic corporate propaganda and propaganda as well on top of that. But just more perspective on this. Law enforcement took more stuff from people than burglars did last year. So this is from 2015, but it remains true even to this day. Civil asset forfeiture surpasses burglaries. And if you don't know what civil asset forfeiture is, it's basically laws that allow police to, let's say, for example, you're driving on the highway, you're going to, a vacation or something. There could be a highway state patroller who pulls you over and says something like, hey, do you have any cash on you right now? And you could say, yeah, I have a couple $1,000s, I'm about to go on a vacation. And he could look at you and say, I actually think that you're going to spend that cash on drugs potentially. And he can take that money from you and simply keep it. Okay, so in other words, the police are legally allowed by the state to steal from the American people, and they do this without ever charging you with a crime. Okay, so civil asset forfeiture is even more than just petty burglaries. Okay, so in other words, the police are literally stealing more from the American people than just average robbers are stealing from the American people or from corporations at all. So again, just putting it in perspective, maybe if you want to talk about this rising crime surge, you should talk about something like this. Okay, looks like a pretty hefty crime surge to me, and honestly, the burglaries are actually trending down in this graph, but the civil asset forfeiture, police having the ability to steal from you, pretty much trending in an exponentially upward trajectory there. But again, just more perspective on what actual theft looks like at a mass scale in this country. Richest Americans fail to pay $163 billion in taxes, the Treasury estimates. And again, this doesn't even give you the full perspective because this is just $163 billion of what they straight up did not pay in terms of what they owe under our already completely pathetic tax structure, okay? We should be taxing billionaires and millionaires and corporations significantly more than we are right now, but even at the measly rates that we are doing right now, they don't even enforce it, okay? $163 billion. And, I'm not a math expert or anything like that, but it seems to me like $163 billion in 1 year might be slightly more than the cost of like 10 steaks from a Trader Joe's, okay? Again, not a math expert or anything like that, but they do say here that it would be, around in total $7 trillion in lost revenue over the next decade due to unpaid taxes, largely from the richest Americans in the entire country, okay? So again, theft that nobody likes to talk about, and just to add, a little bit to make that even worse, the government just admitted it doesn't really try to collect rich people's taxes. So basically, the IRS has been so thoroughly gutted over the last couple of years that they don't even really bother to audit rich people to make sure that they are paying their taxes because it's less expensive to go and audit poor people instead and try to collect, a couple dollars here and there and dimes on poor people who failed to pay their taxes than it is to challenge some group of billionaire lawyers who are protecting the assets of some of the wealthiest people in our society. So again, theft that nobody seems to ever give a shit about talking about on corporate media. But just a couple more examples here. 55 corporations, and this is not just any corporations, this is Fortune 500 corporations, paid $0 in federal taxes on 2020 profits. $0, okay? Sounds like theft to me, okay? And sounds like theft at a much greater scale than petty people, stealing a couple steaks from a Trader Joe's. Again, 55 corporations on the Fortune 500 list. Now, just one more to top it off here, okay? I've covered this on my channel multiple times, but this is just to give you an example, okay? We can talk about a bunch of different other examples similar to this, but Mars, Nestle, and Hershey to face child slavery lawsuit in the US. So basically, these companies were caught relying on child labor and exploiting child labor over in the Ivory Coast to get some of their cocoa products. So again, this is not unique to those companies. It's just to give you one example to say that we have, corporations and billionaires who pay nothing in taxes, who steal billions and billions of dollars from their workers and from workers across the entire world, who rely on child slave labor and do all of these things as corporate media is attacking some guy who stole 10 steaks from a fucking Trader Joe's. It's absolutely pathetic that this is where our media is. This is what they choose to focus on, participating in this endless cycle of propaganda where, we're on the heels of the largest civil rights movement in American history in the aftermath of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor being murdered by the police. We have a couple activists who come out and say defund the police and reallocate those resources towards more effective social programs that could actually decrease crime in the long run. And we never get any of those those concessions at all, okay? There was no material, real change within our prison systems or within our, policing systems or their budgets. There was no defunding of the police. And yet we are still having to deal with this constant, incessant pushback from the media and from police unions, pretending as if they don't have the fucking resources to solve crime, when the reality is they don't solve crime, okay? Police are not an effective tool in combating crime. If you actually want to solve crime in the long run, then invest in people, okay? Address people's economic insecurities, and you can actually start to address the problem of crime. But again, they don't care about that. They don't care about actually reducing crime. What they care about is criminalizing poverty.